Hello, my name is Julie. Welcome to my channel. You're watching Treasures Made from Yarn. And in this video, I am going to show you how to make my popcorn granny square. And we are also going to join as we go. And I'm going to show you how I do that. So we're going to use some size 4 scrap horse weight yarn. I am using a size H hook or 5mm, and you're going to obviously, you're going to need a yarn needle and some scissors. So we're going to start by working on our square. Alright, so you can either make a magic ring, or in this case I'm going to chain 4 to make and join with the first stitch to make a ring. I'm going to chain 2. That doesn't count. I'm going to start out with putting 3 double crochets into this ring. Chain 2, do another group of 3 double crochets, chain 2, and we're going to do that. We're going to make 2 more groups of 3 double crochets. So that's 1, chain 2, and our final group of 3 double crochets. And do our final chain 2, and we're going to join with a slip stitch to our first, not the chain 2, but our first double crochet. Finishes off our first little square. Now we can cut off here, and if you want to change color, we can go into our chain. Okay, but we're not going to change color, so I'm going to show you how I'm going to start without slip stitching into the chain 2 space. We're going to chain 4, and then we're going to go back into our previous chain 2 space. We're going to do 3 double crochets, and we're going to go work around that chain 4 we just did. Three double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets, See, we worked around that chain 4. So that way, you know, if we were continuously working around in our standard granny square, and if you were slip stitching in a stop striping and you didn't want to put the slip stitches on top of the chain of the 3 double crochet groups, it might look neater. So anyway, we're going to finish up all these corners. We're going to chain 1 and do another 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets into this chain 2 space. And we're going to chain 1 into the next chain 2 space. Again, we're going to repeat what we just did. 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets. Chain 1, and we're going to do our final 3 double crochets. Chain 2 and 3 double crochets into this corner. And that's what we do for all our corners. 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. Chain 1 and join into our first double crochet. Now this next round is where we're going to start making our popcorn rows. So again, we're not changing colors, so we're staying in the same color, so we're going to chain 4. And in this chain 5 space, or chain 1, okay, we're in chain 1 space, so we're doing 5 double crochets around this chain 4. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now this is how you make any popcorn stitch. So without losing this loop, we are going to take our hook out of that loop. We're going to go back to the first double crochet, put our hook in that double crochet, and pick up this loop from the 5th double crochet and pull it through, and we have just made our little popcorn. All right. So after that, we are going to chain 2. Now we're back into the corner of our granny square. So in all our corners, we do 3 double crochets. Chain 2 and 3 double crochets. Then we are going to chain 2, because in our next chain 1 space we are going to make our popcorn, and that is 5 double crochets, without losing our loop, taking our hook out of that stitch, going back to the first double crochet, putting our hook in there, and drawing through the loop from our 5th double crochet through the first double crochet to make our popcorn. And we're going to chain 2, and then we're back into our corner and doing 3 double crochets, chain 2, and doing 3 double crochets. Then we repeat what we did around. We're approaching our chain 1 space, so we're going to chain 2 and make another popcorn. And I'm going to repeat that around until we get back to the beginning of our row. Okay, we are toward the end here. We're going to chain 2, and I'm going to change colors because I'm running a little bit low on my scrap here. I might have enough for another row, but I'm not sure. But I think it would be nice to change colors. Alright, so we are going to join at the top of our popcorn with a slip stitch. And because we are changing colors, we are just going to finish off our color here. Finish that in later. Now we're going to join our new color into, we're going to join into a corner space. Doing that by slip stitching into a space and chain 2. Or sometimes I'll just make, with our loop on our hook already, I'll just make the double crochet. So we would, with it attached, the yarn attached to our hook, we're just going to make a double crochet like we normally do. Like that. So anyway, I made one. Now I need 2 more because we're in a corner space. I'm sorry, chain 2. And do another 3 double crochets. Now that we are approaching our chain 1 space, here we're going to actually chain 2 and make our popcorn. and we take our hook out and we make popcorn. Now what we're going to do at this point is that we're going to make another popcorn in our next. This is a chain 2 space. I'm sorry, this was not a chain 1 space, that was a chain 2 space. This place we are going to chain 3. That way our popcorn's not squishing together. So in this chain 2 space we make another popcorn. I'm making our popcorn. Now, as we are approaching, after we make a corner and approaching after we make a popcorn and approaching a corner, we're just going to chain 2 and make our corner of 3 double crochets. Chain 2 and 3 double crochets. We are approaching a chain 2 space, so we're going to chain 2. We chain 2 when we enter, or when we're leaving or approaching a corner space, and making our popcorn. Do this chain 2 space, chain 5, or we make 5 double crochets, making our popcorn. Okay, so now we are going to make our another popcorn in our next chain 2 space. We're going to chain, we chain 3, and we're going to make our second popcorn. We do another popcorn. And because we're approaching a corner, we only chain 2. Now we are going to join this square with this existing project already, because we're going to do that because we only have like one more side left, and this side has already started, so we can't join that side. So we are going to join now this square with this. So we're going to start by starting our corner and doing 3 double crochets. Right, but instead of chaining 2, we're just going to chain 1. Then we're going to find our corresponding corner we want to line up with. And we're going to slip stitch into that corner. Chain 1. And we're going to finish up this corner by putting remaining 3 double crochets. Right, so we are joined up with this corner. So before we're starting our next popcorn, we're going to chain 1 and find the corresponding chain 2 space after the corner after our corner stitch from the square we're going to join with. Again, we're doing another slip stitch, chain 1, and then we're going to proceed by making our popcorn into this chain 2 space. Oh, sorry about that, I can't see. Finish making our popcorn. Then we're going to chain 1 and then find that chain 3 space from the square we're joining with, slip stitching into that chain 3 space, do another chain 1, and then do our popcorn in our chain 2 space right here. We're finishing our popcorn. Chain 1, find the chain 2 space from the square we are joining with, make a slip stitch, chain 1, and then we're going to start this corner. We're only starting the corner, so we only put 3 double crochets into this corner. Chain 1, and then slip stitch into the corner chain 2 space of the square we're joining with. So we slip stitch into that chain 2 space, chain 1, and finish up the corner. 3 double crochets. And now we're done joining, because we are now joined. So as we're doing as normal, we chain 2, do our popcorn, and because we're going to make another popcorn, we're chaining 3 single crochets between the 2 popcorns of our last row. Make our last popcorn of the round. finish up our popcorn. Chain 2, and then we are going to slip stitch. In our first double crochet. And we finish this off, and that finishes off this square. So we're going to finish off our ends, and then now we're going to show you how to join when we have to join with 2 squares. Okay, so I got one more round left of this grounding square, but I am going to join as I go with these with 2 sides. So I'm not going to change colors this time. So because I'm not doing that, I'm going to chain 4. And this is the space where I would make a popcorn, so I am going to make a popcorn here. Popcorn. Because we're going into a corner, we chain 2. Alright, now we're going to actually start joining our square. Because pretty much when we have to join 2 sides, we want almost, as soon as you get to the first corner, you are starting to join right away. So we would start by starting our corner, which of 3 double crochets. Join 1, and we are slip stitching into the corner space of our corresponding square, chain 1, and we're going to finish up the corner by doing 3 double crochets. We are chaining 1, and then we're going to find the next chain 2 space of the square we're joining with, and we're going to slip stitch in there. We're going to chain 1 before we make our first popcorn into that chain 2 space. Square we are making our popcorn. Popcorn. Okay, good. Here, making our popcorn. Chain 1. Now we're going to find our corresponding, this is our chain 3 space between the 2 popcorns. We're going to slip stitch into that space, chain 1, and make our next popcorn in our chain 2 space, the square we're working on. Making our popcorn, chain 1, find the chain 2 space before this corner, the corresponding chain 2 space, and we're going to slip stitch into that. Chain 1. Now we are at our corner. We are starting our corner. Chain 3. Chain 1. Now this could be tricky because not only are we joining up with the square above this, but we're joining with the square next to it. So we're going to slip stitch into the chain 2 space of the square above it, and we're also going to go over and make a chain 2 space into the corner space of the square that it's next to. Chain 1 and finish up that square. So now we're going to work into joining with this square. Chain 1. Then we're going to find the chain 2 space after this corner and before that cluster. Make a slip stitch to that space, chain 1, and now we're making our first cluster into this chain 2 space, or first popcorn cluster. I guess you can call it the same thing. Our popcorn, chain 1, and find the next chain space, which is the chain 3 space between our clusters, or okay, popcorns. Make a slip stitch, chain 1, and then we make our next popcorn into the chain 2 space. Finish up making our popcorn. Chain 1. Then we find our next chain 2 space after the cluster, our corresponding square, slip stitch, and chain 1. And now we are starting our final corner. Chain 3, chain 1, slip stitch into the corner of the square we're joining, chain 1, and finish up, easy to move, finish up our corner. Chain, now we're going to chain 2 because we're done joining. Make our popcorn. Making our popcorn. Now, because we're going to go make another popcorn, we're going to chain 3. Chain 3, making our, now we make our popcorn to this chain 2 space. Chain 2, and then we make our corner. Alright, we're still making our corner, which is chain or 3 double crochets, chain 2 and 3 double crochets to finish our corner. We're chain 2 because we're leaving a corner and going to make a popcorn. And we're going to make our popcorn. And because now we're finishing up, we had to go join with this popcorn, so we are going to chain 3. Because between popcorns we have chain 3 if we're not joining. And we slip stitch to finish our square. And there you have our popcorn granny square with joining as we go. Some notes, obviously I didn't show you how to make the first. Obviously we already had our beginning square already made and one joined already. But to make our first square, obviously like before, for the final round, the corners are 3 double crochet, chain 2 and 3 double crochet, and then we would chain 2, make our popcorn, and 3 chains between popcorns, and then a corner around. And if you want to make this square bigger, like if you want to do one or more rounds, you obviously would chain 2 after a corner, chain 2, make your popcorn, and then you would chain 3 after this popcorn. You make your popcorn here, chain 3, make your popcorn here, chain 3, make your popcorn, chain 2 into the corner. So it's after the corner it's chain 2, and in between the popcorns it's chain 3, because if you had less chains it would squish together. And also note, it might look more seamless if your entire outer border is going to be the same color. That's not going to be the case with this project here. It's going to be a scrap yarn project. But it might look nicer if your outer border is the same color. Let me know what you think. I know some people this might not be a cup of tea to join as you go. Some people might like the nicer single crochet borders and sewing them later, but I know when it comes to the granny squares, I like to join as I go. So that is it for this tutorial. If you did like this video, please give it a like. Want to see more content like this? Please subscribe to my channel. And I want to thank you always for watching. And I will see you in my next video. Bye now.